What's up, everybody? Hello and welcome to Not Your Average Meta, an MTG Commander channel dedicated to bringing you decks and commanders you wouldn't normally find in your average meta. This week's video is brought to you by our new channel sponsor, International MTG. If you're looking for competitive pricing on your favorite MTG cards, old and new, be sure to check out the International MTG store and TCG Player, link in the description of this video. This week on Not Your Average Meta, we're back in Taylorville playing in a pod with a couple of our friends from the Hobby Horse. First up, we have Gavin returning and playing Athreos, God of Passage. This deck is looking to take advantage of Athreos' ability to enable a classic aristocrat strategy using Shadowborn Apostles. Next, we have Jacob making his second appearance on the channel playing Ramses Overdark. This deck looks to take advantage of putting auras on opponents' creatures in order to later benefit himself. I've got to say this is one of the more unique decks I've seen in a while, and I love it. Then we have Justin returning with his favorite not the mirror colored commander, the Mimeoplasm. This deck looks to fill up his graveyard with scary monsters in order to turn Mimeoplasm into the nastiest slime boy there is. Finally, we have Fallgirl playing his classic Ravenous Rhino deck featuring Ghired Conclave Exile. This deck looks to take advantage of Ghired's populate ability to run over his opponents with a herd of Rhino tokens. Now that we have our fighters, let's step into the Thunderdome and see which deck will come out on top. Jacob draws, plays an island, that taps one for a glaring spotlight. Justin draws and plays an island. Fog draws, plays a forest, and passes. Gavin draws and plays a Gemstone Mine, getting 3 counters, using 1 for a white mana to cast Esper Sentinel. Jacob plays a Command Tower for turn that taps one island to enchant Gavin Sentinel with Private Research. Justin plays a Loner Waste for turn and then passes. Fog plays a Rootbound Crag for turn that taps 2 for a Farseek. Gavin draws off his Sentinel trigger and Fog goes to find a Taiga before passing. Gavin plays an Urborg for turn, giving us all swamps. He then taps both his lands to cast a Shadowborn Apostle and a Skull Clamp. On his upkeep, Jacob puts a counter on his research and draws. He then plays another island before tapping 2 for a Dimir Signet, not paying for Gavin Sentinel. He then taps another 2 and casts Crown of Ages. Justin plays a Forest for turn, that taps out to cast Buried Alive before passing. Fog draws and plays a Plants for turn. He then casts a Zuza Lost But Seeking and plays a second land for turn. Gavin plays a Vault of Champions for turn that taps 1 for a Dark Ritual. He then uses 2 black and a Plains to cast Athreos. He then uses his last floating black to cast Shadowborn Apostle. Gavin then clamps his Apostle, drawing 2, while Jacob takes a 3 to put her in his graveyard. On his upkeep, Jacob puts a counter on his research, then taps 2 to enchant Gavin's Skull Clamp with Ensoul Artifact. Justin draws for turn and passes. At the end of his turn, Fog casts Enlightened Tutor to go find a Mana Crypt. Fog draws a Crypt for turn, then taps 5 to cast his commander Ghired, getting a 4/4 Rhino token. He then taps another 2 for Intangible Virtue. Gavin plays an Isolated Chapel for turn, that taps 1 to cast Shadowborn Apostle. He then taps 3 more to cast Necropotence, which gets countered by Jacob with a good old negate. On his upkeep, Jacob puts a counter on his research and taps 3 for a Night Howler before passing. Justin draws for turn, then taps 1 for a beautiful turn 5 Soul Ring. He then taps another 4 for Toski, the Devil Squirrel. Fog untaps for turn and loses his Mana Crypt roll. He then goes to combat swinging his commander Justin, who blocks with a Squirrel, and his 2 Rhinos at Gavin, who blocks with a Skull Clamp. Fog then takes a 3 to put it into his graveyard. In response to damage, Fog casts Heroic Intervention before casting Second Harvest, getting 2 more Rhinos. Gavin draws for turn, then plays a Verdant Catacombs, taking 1 to go get a snow-covered swamp. He then plays his own Soul Ring and Yawgmoth's Will, allowing him to cast spells from his graveyard. He then casts Dark Ritual from his graveyard, along with Necropotence and a Shadowborn Apostle. He then goes to his instep, paying 10 life to put 10 cards in his hand. On his upkeep, Jacob puts a counter on his research, and he then taps 1 for a Helm of the Gods. Justin draws and plays a Forest for turn, before tapping out to cast his commander as a copy of Simic Skyswaller with 7+1/+1 counters. He then swings a Squirrel at Fog, who takes the hit, and Justin draws a card. Fog loses his Mana Crypt roll and plays a Forest for turn. He then goes to combat swinging his 4 Rhinos and extra attacking Rhino Justin for 25 and his commander Jacob for 2. Everybody takes their hits and he passes. Gavin taps 4 for a Grave Pack before clamping 1 of his Apostles. In response, Jacob uses his crown to switch the research to his Apostle. Everybody then sacks a creature, and Fog pays 3 for the Athreos trigger. Gavin then draws 2 cards while Jacob draws 4. Gavin then clamps another Apostle, and everybody sacks a creature. Fog then pays another 3 life, and Gavin draws 2 cards. Gavin then plays a Savannah before repeating the process again with his last Apostle. Jacob plays a Swamp for turn, then taps 2 for a Thought Vessel, and another 5 for Revel and Riches. Justin draws and plays a Ghost Quarter for turn. He then taps out to cast Runescarred Demon and goes to find a card in his library. Fog loses his Mana Crypt roll and then recasts his commander, getting another Rhino. He then swings his 4 Rhinos at Gavin, who blocks 1 with Athreos and then goes down to 8 life. Gavin starts his turn, then casts a Meathook Massacre for 6 to wipe the board. In response, Fog casts Path to Exile and Athreos. All the creatures die, and Gavin gains 6 life. Jacob draws for turn, then taps 6 to cast his commander, Ramses Overdark. He then taps 1 more to enchant his commander with Diplomatic Immunity. Justin draws, then taps 5 for Living Death, swapping all of our creatures on the board for all of our creatures in our graveyards. All the creatures then come back into play, and Justin goes to tutor again from his demon. Fog takes 3 for his Crypt again, then taps 9 to recast his commander again, getting another Rhino token. Gavin taps 5 to recast Athreos before casting 3 more Shadowborn Apostles. He then goes to his instep, paying 4 life into Necropotence. Jacob plays another Swamp for turn, then casts Backfire on Fog's commander and Despondency on Gavin's Sentinel. Justin draws for turn, then casts Oko, Thief of Crowns, turning 1 of Jacob's treasures into an elk. He then casts Pelukrinos Unchained and swings a squirrel at Fog, who blocks with Azusa. Fog untaps a turn and plays another forest before casting Birds of Paradise. He then goes to combat, swinging the crew at Jacob. Jacob blocks a Rhino, then takes a rest, going down to 25, while Fog takes 2. Gavin untaps a turn and plays a Lotus Petal before tapping 3 for Phyrexian Altar and another 3 for Bontu's Monument. He then goes to combat, swinging all his creatures at Jacob, who in response moves Backfire onto Athreos with his crown. He then takes a hit, going to 14. He then activates his Apostles, going to find a demon, and gains 6 life from our creatures dying. He then plays an Archfiend of Despair and shows us a loop of sacking his Apostles for mana to recast more from his hand, draining the table for a win. Today's big winner was Gavin picking up his first win on the channel playing Athreos. Like many other Athreos decks that I've played in the past, using his ability with an onslaught of Shadowborn Apostles is a nasty combo to try to overcome once the engine is going. The MVP of this game has to be one of Gavin's many Shadowborn Apostles. Being able to sack them for some kind of value, return them to your hand, and then recast them for 1 black mana is ridiculous. Talk about having the perfect card for the perfect deck. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you can see more games and decks you wouldn't normally see in your average meta.